I was originally focused on real estate. I'd even looked at graduate school focused around real estate, wanted to get into brokerage. I really kind of ran across this industry, I would say about 2 to 3 months ago. Being able to interview is a skill of itself. I think for me, that's what sealed the deal. I mean, he's like, we're done. You did. We don't even have to go any further.
I'm really excited this week to share my conversation with Caleb, who just broke into Oracle, a market-leading database company. Coming out of college, he had actually considered a real estate career, but had no internship experience whatsoever, and had actually DoorDashed his entire time in college to support himself. This is a great example, and we dive really deep today as to how Caleb uncovered the career, why it was a fit for him, and how he was ultimately able to stand out with no past tech, no past sales experience. Caleb, we're really excited for you. Oracle's a great company, and I know everyone watching is going to get a ton out of this conversation.
Hey, everybody. Really excited to speak this week with Caleb, who just broke into Oracle. Really excited for you. Obviously, a lot of great things ahead, but maybe as a starting point for everyone's reference, share a little bit about your background and what got you interested in tech sales.
Absolutely. So, I really kind of ran across this industry, I would say about 2 to 3 months ago, and it was kind of just a random happenstance that I was introduced to it. And I was originally focused on real estate. I'd even looked at graduate school focused around real estate, wanted to get into brokerage, and just always been entrepreneurial. And so I took some time. I talked to some mentors, and all right, hey, real estate's great, but it's not what it used to be. And so I would look around, and so I took some time. I actually came across y'all's podcast, listened to all of the success stories. It sounded like a excellent way to not only just get into sales, but it seems that I've seen Mark Cuban's story, and just so many other people. They get into sales within tech, and then they can go any other direction within the industry. And I was like, man, I think I'm gonna put some time and effort and use y'all's program and see what I can do. So
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love to hear it. And yeah, I think that's why, aside from the earning potential itself, I think that's why Chris and I have loved a career in tech sales so much, because I think really, even having been a former engineer myself, there's no way I could have quit engineering cold turkey and just like started a company. So I think having that skill set pays not only in the short term, but also gives you the biggest hedge on your career in the long term. And maybe, for everyone on the outside looking in, right? Like you graduated from a great school, Texas A&M. I'm sure you had access to career fairs and things of that nature. What ultimately went into the decision of still investing in training with higher levels versus maybe trying to go about it yourself?
So, I even looked at a interview coach. He was more of a generalist, and I started to go through these recruiter screening calls, and I admittedly got rejected probably at about 75% of them. And I talked to some SDRs at different companies, and they're like, hey, this whole process is pretty unique. Being able to interview is a skill of itself. And so I looked at y'all's program, and it's tailored for what you need. And I could tell after I started to use y'all's blueprint, I was talking to these recruiters, and I'm like, okay, they're staying more engaged. I'm starting to actually get through even to my first interview. And y'all have been there, y'all have done it yourselves, and y'all have also coached people. And it's like this is absolutely worth the investment to end up getting to that payday. So
Nice, man. I guess like what was it about, higher levels when you were looking at training? Obviously, like you found us, you looked at some of the success stories. Like what was it apart from that maybe that made you say, hey, this feels like something that is worth it to me, or like this makes sense? Or was there a specific element that maybe made you pull the trigger more than anything else? Just curious.
I think a lot of it was y'all's background. I mean, I had heard y'all's podcast. Y'all are killers. Y'all have made President's Club, I think 5, 6, 7 times. And just hearing about y'all's journey, I was like, these guys are the real deal. I would prefer to work with somebody that knows what they're doing, and even if it's a little bit extra, I mean, it's worth it all day, every day. And so just lots of credibility between you two, Connor. I know y'all brought some other guys on, Ian. I mean, just the whole team is, I would say to me elite. So
Nice. Well, I mean, dude, you actually impressed me a lot too. So like and just for everybody else out there, we had a coaching session. I think it was last week or the week before that. And I was so surprised at like how many top companies that you were interviewing with. And you just like kind of went out there, you're using all these creative methods. Like you were, going in person, trying to get your resume across. And like, I love that. I thought that was so cool. So a lot of kudos goes to you as well. Obviously, like we can give you the program, the instructions, but you even thought outside the box and went a step further. So a lot of respect to you on that front. I guess now that you've been through the course, you've taken it, you've kind of like had a chance to absorb everything. Was there a specific part of the program that you felt like was more valuable than maybe other parts? Obviously, everybody is different. Some people need help with interviewing. Some people need help with resume. Was there a specific element that was more helpful to you than others maybe?
So, kind of going back on how I use some non-traditional methods to land these interviews, I did notice that my resume was getting auto rejected pretty much right around 80% of the time. And I had already had my Oracle first round interview, not the recruiter's screening call. And so I ended up not changing my resume, but it's funny enough, I got some more rejections after I got offered. But I think if I were to still be looking, I would have utilized that a little bit more. But for me, I've seen where these interviews are, a lot of them are assignment based. You know, you got your mock cold calls, cold emails. For me, that mock cold call script, man, I think for me that's what sealed the deal. I mean, he's like, we're done. You did. We don't even have to go any further. I'm putting in my notes right now. You're hired. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he's like, it's because you killed the mock cold call. And so, I think that right there is unique to everyone. But man, that was the nail in the coffin in a good way for me.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love to hear that. That was actually going to be part of my next question as well, right? You find out about this industry and within a couple months, like you're already interviewing, getting offers. Is there any advice to someone on the outside looking in that's maybe in a similar situation where they found out about this industry? They don't have that direct tech experience or maybe sales experience or both. How did you really compose yourself in those final stages? And just more broadly, anything you learned or advice you would give to others?
I was able to go through three different companies in their first round interviews, and each one of them was just a little bit different. But I think the main thing for me was if you're prepared, I mean, you're still going to be nervous. You might even be more nervous just because it's you've kind of put everything on a pedestal, which that is what it is. If you got a good company that you really want, it's just how it's going to be. But I think that preparation, being able to speak with you, with Chris, I mean, that was as much of a therapy as it was a coaching session. And I was like, man, I gotta get my nerves, zoned in and get comfortable. And once you can do that, then the preparation, it takes over. So
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And just for our reference too, from when you joined higher levels to when you ultimately got the offer at Oracle, what was that overall time frame?
So, I found out about Oracle. It was that was a quick process, kind of came out of nowhere. And so I think I joined about a week and a half, 2 weeks before. And I just went through y'all's program like every single day, just combing through it. And so, yeah, it's week and a half, 2 weeks, I would say. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'm curious too. I know you kind of went through an interesting process here with different companies. I guess in your perspective, what do you feel like was maybe like the hardest thing that you had to overcome or maybe practice or, to some way, shape, or form kind of like master a little bit more than before you started the process. This is also very, very subjective. So I'm curious, in your sense, given that you've gone through so many different companies in such a short period of time, what was that experience like?
You know, I think the initial hurdle for me was probably getting through the recruiter screening call. I mean, the resume and getting auto rejected, I mean, that's if you have the right keywords in there and it's, put together well, that can be, you can prepare for that. But the screening calls, I had some pretty savvy recruiters. They were, able to tell by how you presented yourself, how well spoken you were. I mean, what you said. Those were pretty tough. And so I think a lot of that was getting comfortable to that with that over the phone, over the computer style of interviewing, screening. It was just it's a weird, different environment at first.
Gotcha. No, it makes sense. Makes sense. Well, cool, Caleb. First of all, dude, appreciate the time here. You absolutely crushed it. You really impressed me just how quickly you did this, how quickly you kind of like iterated, and just how, yeah, well you went through this process. A lot of folks, they take a little while to see that traction, but you did it really, really quick. So I guess maybe as closing here, like, maybe for other folks out there, who are considering making a similar change as what you did, transitioning into tech sales, considering tech sales ascension, anything you want to kind of leave them with, or that you would, maybe like recommend that they take to heart?
I'm not a finance expert, but I believe in investments. If something's gonna cost you 500, 1,000, $2,000, but it's gonna make you, 100 to $300,000 down the road, that's a no-brainer. If you can speed up the process and get to that end goal quicker, why would you not? I've heard of people, it took them 7 months to break in, awesome colleges and, great companies they wanted in, but it just, it never happened. I mean, it did eventually, but 7 months later, and it's like, man, I'm all about speed. I'm all about efficiency. And so if that's something that you really want, you want to break into tech sales, put everything into it up front. And then I'm not saying it's going to be easier, but you'll at least be much more prepared and you'll probably have a better outcome if, you make that happen.
Nice. I love it, man. Well, we appreciate the kind words. And Caleb, again, huge congrats on Oracle, man. That's a major accomplishment, especially how quickly you did it, how well you just kind of, I keep saying it over and over, but I was impressed. So huge congrats. If you're not too busy with onboarding by the time that this video goes live, we're going to drop Caleb's LinkedIn underneath. And yeah, definitely hit him up to get some tips and tricks. But Caleb, thank you so much. This was solid. Eric, I don't know if you have any famous last words, but this was a killer one. So
yeah, this was great, man. Really excited to see where Oracle takes you, and congrats again. Really appreciate all the insight.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, thank y'all both. Y'all have been super awesome this whole process. For anybody that's watching, Eric, Chris, Connor, they're the guys. Y'all, if y'all need some help, y'all need to make it happen. Yeah, that's a great team right there. So
we appreciate it, man.